You guys have read all the books. Look at you now. You can't love anybody unless you love yourself first. And that's self-esteem, self-confidence. The only real guarantee I can make is that if you don't keep swinging at the plate, you don't keep trying to hit it for six, you don't keep lunging towards the goal line, you're never going to do it.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 and 9. For my top 10, top 10, 9 and 9. This one's for my top 10.
Need motivation?
Watch the Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. So get ready to love yourself, play to win, and take action with Dan Pena and my take on his top 10 rules of success to give you the confidence, motivation, and belief that you need. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Love yourself.
I listen to my own self. Sally come into the office, I'll be crying. God damn, I love this shit. How good can I be, God? Jesus Christ, I can't get much better, God. Allah. I love listening to myself talk. I really adore myself. You can't love anybody unless you love yourself first. And that's self-esteem, self-confidence. Some people even say it translates over into self-awareness. I don't know about that. That's a little airy-fairy for me, self-awareness. But nobody where I grew up talked about self-confidence. A lot of the kids, a lot of the street gang guys, they have self-confidence and they really don't have that much self-esteem. That's why they join gangs. But they have self-confidence to go out and fight people and, you know, piss in your face, not literally piss in your face, but I mean, piss in your face. And, the current generation, actually about a generation and a half just doesn't.
Rule number 2, play to win.
For those of you that have ever started a business from ground zero, $1 to $5,000 is geometric growth. $1 to $100,000 in revenue is geometric growth. $1 to $1 million in revenue is geometric growth. Then what happens to you? You stop playing to win and you start playing not to lose. Like an Army-Navy game. You're up 18-6 at halftime. You lose momentum. The game ties at 18-18 by the end of the fourth quarter and you lose in overtime. Because you stop playing to win the second half and you start playing not to lose. It's the same in business. Because you start worrying about the few pennies that you made and you start to sit on them like a mother hen. Most of the men and women in this room that have been in business stopped playing to win long ago. And they started playing not to lose.
Rule number 3, take action.
You guys have read all the books. And look at you now. What good has it got you? You've listened to all the podcasts. With the greatest respect, I didn't know one single speaker on the agenda for this event. I told Jason last night, not one. Doesn't mean they're not great guys. Doesn't mean they don't know what the f they're talking about, but I never heard any of them. You read all the podcasts, you read all the stuff. See, you've been deluded, bullshit into believing that reading is taking action. You've been deluded into believing that listening to a podcast is taking action. It's not. The only thing that's taking action is pulling the trigger. Take action.
Rule number 4, don't dwell over rejections.
Some of you, myself included, have been rejected. I talked about my 1981 experience here where my deal fell to shit and I had to pay £500,000, which is about $1 million of money I didn't have. Hence, I came up with delayed fees. The rejection is part of the process. The kids, you've heard say it's a numbers game. That's their way of saying you're going to face rejection. I mean, Bert and Bill can tell you about the times they tried and weren't successful. And the only real guarantee I can make is that if you don't keep swinging at the plate, you don't keep trying to hit it for six, you don't keep lunging towards the goal line, you're never going to do it.
Also, if you want to have more self-love and confidence, check out my 254 series. They're free. The link to join are in the description below.
You want people with a like mind and that are better than you, smarter than you, more intelligent than you to get on your bus. But no one does know initially, up front. You have to try. You have to swing at the plate. A kid like you, if you had to keep track of 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, what you do.
Rule number 5, set your expectations higher.
There's a guy out there that's still talking about his $1.7 million he made 35 years ago. Some of you has been to his seminar. Well, $1.75 million 35 years ago. Today it's about, maybe it's $2 or $3 million. But you will never surpass your wildest expectation. You will never surpass. And when we do goals tomorrow, you will never surpass your wildest expectation. Now, remember when Cassius Clay, before he became Muhammad Ali, I'm the greatest, right? He was telling everybody. Now, he didn't really believe that, but it was part of his shtick, okay? I really do believe I'm the greatest, okay? And he went around flapping his mouth, and there's been 4 or 5 athletes in the last 30, 40 years that have talked like that. But most of them are humble, right? Most of them are humble. And but he didn't surpass his wildest expectation. He attained his wildest expectation. I guarantee, for those of you that wanted to make $1 million or $3 million, whatever the minuscule amount of money that you put down, or, what's your goal, whatever, I guarantee you, if you hadn't come here, that's the very most that you'd ever make, unless you won the lottery or something.
Rule number 6, be ready to sacrifice.
A new test that we give now, the super success test, we have a 98.2% failure rate. 98. I thought the success test at 95.6% failure rate was bad. But the super success test is worse. 98.2% of the people, and you've all taken the test, don't want to be successful. Whereas the excuse you gave about, for example, the snowflake test, was that, I don't want to go to jail for hitting some guy with a lead pipe because he spit in my mother's face. Well, that's a f***ing cop-out. We both know it. If he stabbed your mother in the eye, you wouldn't tune him up. Because you're a c***. You got no balls. So we made a 21st century test. Okay, so you don't want to go to jail for beating somebody up. You don't want to go to jail for standing up for your own human rights. Okay, you're a vagina, but okay, let's do a new test to see if we can separate the men from the boys, the women from the girls. And it was a super success test, and those questions are on a different end of the continuum. Those questions are you willing to miss your 16th birthday of your daughter, sweet 16? Are you willing to do a deal knowing you're going to miss Christmas and have to celebrate Christmas in January? Those were the questions. And the results were worse. 98.2% of you, let's call it 98, aren't willing to do a thing to be successful. Work long hours. Not take your daughter to university in their first day because you got a deal closing.
Rule number 7, learn how to articulate yourself.
You have 2 times to make a first impression. First, how you look. And you're going to trick because you're going to dress better now. And the second time is when you open your mouth. And then no matter how you dress, when you open your mouth and you step on your dick, it does away with how you're dressed. And most of you, just as you don't know what fork to use when you sit down in a meal like you did last night, don't know what to say. And that's the real reason you don't go see your board members. because you're afraid. With an email, God forbid you use a text or this is eyeballed, this is mano a mano, man to man, woman to woman, woman to man, whatever. And that's why you don't, because you haven't learned to articulate what you want, your desires, your needs, because we've got a generation and a half that's growing up hiding behind the computer.
Rule number 8, get experience.
With all the computers and all the artificial intelligence, there's still no algorithm for experience. There's no code that you can write for 50 years of experience. There's no code that you can write for creating tens of billions of dollars. There's no code that you can write for having met 5 presidents, 5 secretaries of state. There's no algorithm. And as they said at Oxford when I spoke my first university about 2.5 years ago, like in the front row here, some young man said that somebody that he was following had read 700 books. I didn't know there were 700 books on my subject matter. But the guy 2 seats down said, who would you rather have? Somebody that read 700 books or somebody that's done 700 deals?
Rule number 9, be strategic.
95% of all businesses worldwide don't sell. Why? Because the seller's trying to get rich off one transaction. He's trying to build his wealth off one deal. He worked 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and now he's trying to get wealthy. Wealth is built on a series of transactions, not one. 95% of all businesses don't sell because they're asking outrageously high price for it because they didn't get rich all the way up. This system that has created billions, tens of billions, the largest deal in recorded history, from teenage phenom multimillionaires to the largest deal on the planet, $500 billion, is built on taking money out every time you do a transaction. And this system is realize means sell, and either through an IPO or a strategic sale to a big company, and so you're cashing out. And that's how we've done it since I've been coaching 25 years. And that's how Amazon's doing it. And that's how Google is doing it. And that's how Microsoft is doing it. And that's how, and I could go on and on and on and name many more companies.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is get good habits.
Jim Ryan, the greatest modeler, never to win a gold medal at the Olympics. Old friend of mine. He fell down in the 1968 Olympics. So, speak about regrets. That's a whole regret book. He said, Danny, he says, motivation gets you started. Good habits keep you going. For those of you that are going to weigh 50 pounds more in 10 years, and there's a couple candidates in here, I hope I'm wrong. It's the good habits of training that will keep you going. Now, I'm a believer, and I know I'm not in sync with modern technology. I believe in overtraining. The only thing you can sometimes overtrain is your head. If your head's not in sync with your body. If you think you're tired, guess what? You get tired.
Now I have a special bonus clip from Dan on how to not look for shortcuts that I think you're going to enjoy. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1. What's one new good habit that you need to get? Number 2, where do you need to set your expectations higher? And number 3, where do you need to take action right now? And if you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Give me a hashtag believe down in the comments as well.
You've got generations of, and I hate to keep saying, of vagina. I mean, when Peter gets up and tells his story, he lived it, and he knows, and he's been to the hardcore, and he's been to the seminar, and the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. You just can't get it up. They're there on their back. You just can't, you can't get it up. And even though I embarrass you, you still can't get it up. Because when you've gotten it up and you've seen somebody get it up, your grandfather was wiped out in the great lumber crash of 52. Or, Yet somebody will get it up. And it's hard to pick them. It just is hard to pick them. In theory, everybody in this room ought to be able to do it. Theoretically, as our daughter said 20 years ago when she went, it's easy peasy, Daddy. And it is. It's dead simple. But, you know, templates, cold calls. You've heard that from everybody so far. Yet, I can, you know, look to your left and look to your right, and they'll be gone. Why won't they follow the templates? Tell me. Meathead too. Tell me why.
Because their brain thinks that there's a shortcut.
Correct. Thank you. He's not as brain dead as he looks then. You know, okay? That's exactly correct. Because everybody that you know, that you've been to the seminars, says there are shortcuts. And they teach you the shortcuts. And there are no shortcuts. Who else is producing billionaires? Nobody. There are no shortcuts. There's no shortcut to a gold medal at the Olympics. There's no shortcuts to a gold medal at the Olympics. The guy that took a shortcut got a bronze.
If you want more Dan Pena, check out the other top 10 I did on him. The link is right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You can't hit a home run unless you're in the batter's box and you swing away, right? Actions have consequences. There is no work-life balance.